Welcome to the Convo by Design Icon Registry episode for the month of September 2025. This month's inductee is an icon for sure, an international luminary, and someone who has been as down to earth and kind to me as anyone could possibly be. I shouldn't have to say that, right? But that's one of the things that differentiates Martyn Lawrence Bullard from so many. Really, most creatives who have achieved Bullard's level of success. I sat down with Martyn at the SOHO Home showroom on Melrose Boulevard in West Hollywood right before the 10th anniversary party for Convo by Design. The SOHO Home, previously the Rose Tarlow showroom, with its storied history and exceptional lighting, made for a truly unique experience for me. And I hope that is one of the things you pick up in this conversation with the September 2025 inductee of the Convo by Design Icon Registry. The Convo by Design Icon Registry is presented by Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company. Pacific Sales is comprised of longtime professionals who love design and architecture as much as you do, which is why it is so fitting that they present this recognition of some of the world's greatest design talent every month here on Convo by Design. On the show today, you are going to hear from Martyn Lawrence Bullard. And gosh, I love this conversation, and I hope you do too. Martyn, thank you again for doing this. It's so much fun. And you're going to hear all of it right after this. If you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you've heard me say this, that the most important word in the design industry is service. Product is important, price is important, selection is important, but stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of a project, any project. How design professionals like you demand great service and your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commission sales professionals. It's really important. It means that their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of experience in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, and inspiration. Now, you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you and offer their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you have experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy gift cards, e-gift cards, or 2.5% in rewards checks for every qualified and delivered sale. In addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more than I could possibly tell you about here. And the cherry on top is access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service, again, from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific Sales expert at a showroom today for full details and to learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. It's funny too, because I do love that idea of, so what are we talking about? And it's like, you know what, Martyn? I have been so excited to get back together with you and talk to you. The last time that you and I spoke, a few things have happened since then. The last time you and I spoke was 2019.
Which is absolutely insane.
Isn't that bananas?
How is it 2019? I don't even know where that time has gone.
I know. It's really weird. And I've seen a bunch of people this week, and it's like, when was the last time I saw you? Oh, it's been like 3 years since we've seen each other in person. It just, time is a construct that I don't understand.
COVID sort of confused all of us.
Yeah.
You know, those 2 years of being at home or whatever was going on, it's a blur now. It's a blur.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I was remembering our conversation that we had. We're right next door to your gorgeous showroom on Melrose, and the last conversation we had, you had decorated your window for Legends.
Oh, okay.
And the theme that year was icons. And you selected Tony Duquette.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yes.
And one of the things that has still stuck with me all these years later is you created a chandelier with a baluster for the center of the chandelier, and you crafted it for that particular window.
That's right,
and,
yeah.
And you were explaining to me the idea of how Duquette as set decorator informed Duquette as designer.
Totally.
And one of the things that I love about you, that I love about your work, is there is show business, there is glamour, there is style, there is story in everything that you do. And that's one of the things that has stuck with me, that baluster, that chandelier with a baluster, because it looked ornate, it looked expensive, it looked amazing. Tell me about the background in show business, your background in show business, because it's deep and it's rich, and I imagine that it informs what you do every day.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, well, first and foremost, the Duquette thing and that chandelier was an ode to him because he was a major glue gunner, meaning he would find, any old thing that he loved the look of, and then he'd sort of glue it to a bunch of other things he loved the look of and somehow make these extraordinary creations. And that is creativity at its best. I mean, I love that about Duquette and the lineage he left us of that. But of course, that was also sort of the way sets are made. We can walk into these extraordinary looking rooms, but they're actually a set, which means it's all made out of cardboard. And once the cameras are off, the whole thing comes down. So it's amazing. I love set design, and I feel like one of the things for me, having been a trained actor originally, going towards your question, I fell in love with the idea of acting because I loved the sets, the costumes, the lighting, the glamour. It was more about that than the acting, honestly, which is why I guess the acting failed and I've ended up being an interior designer.
Well, it's funny. I wouldn't say it failed. I think that there is a great deal of acting. It's funny because some people think that when a designer such as you achieves the status and stature that you have, that you don't have to sell your ideas anymore. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. Sometimes, do you find yourself having to push your ideas through?
Yes. I mean, just because you're well known doesn't mean that everyone's just going to bow and scrape and agree to painting their bathroom, fluorescent orange. No, what we do is we help people make their dreams come true. We create fantasy. Going back to the acting. We create fantasy. We create magic for people. But fantasies have to start in your own head. And so everybody's got an idea really of the way they want to live, how they want to feel, what they want to be surrounded with. And so, I like my interior design jobs to be hand in hand with the client, to be a partnership. So I want to get to know them. I want to understand what they want, what they love, what they need, what they think they want. And then I give them a little bit of what I want mixed with what they want, which ends up being, they think, what they always wanted in the first place.
That's like a mathematical equation. Like that is so difficult to try to factor in. But it's interesting too, because as we factor that in, so things that have changed since you and I spoke as well. Isn't it extraordinary that something happened that affected everybody, not just the rich, not just the poor, not just LA, New York, Japan, China, affected everybody. So it created a situation where sometimes if you can't get something one place, you go and get it someplace else. Sometimes if you can't live where you're living, you go travel, but you can't do that too. So we found ourselves, and I am in awe of what the design community did during the pandemic. I think it was extraordinary. I think what people like you...
It was no easy feat.
Right?
Yeah. It's still not. We're still recovering, from the backlog. I literally have... It just cleared customs. I have a container that I bought 2 years ago in Marrakesh that is only just clearing customs now. It's insane. The great thing that happened during COVID is that, people got to stay home. They got to feel their homes, because so many times, you end up getting up early, going to work all day, coming home exhausted, eating your takeout and watching the TV. Whereas people got to really be in their homes, experience the light at different times of the day, feel how they wanted to use the rooms, many times discovering that they didn't like the room that they were in using for that purpose and wanting to repurpose it. And so it's given a lot of fresh imagination to people's spaces and new requirements. And so that was something that's been really interesting to dissect and work out in the moving forward in life from now on. I don't think it'll ever be the same, actually. I think everything's really changed, and I think the way people want to use their spaces and experience their home lives has changed. And I mean, obviously we're sitting in SOHO Home right now. This is a prime example of a company that sort of sprouted from the ashes of COVID times, in the fact that they are a stock company where people come in, they buy a designer-looking product that they can take home with them. Because now people don't want to wait. They want instant gratification, or as I like to say, they want instant joy. They want joy, they want things that spark happiness in their lives, and they want them now.
And okay, so let's talk about that and how, excuse me, those challenges affected the work that you were doing. It's funny. I think that there are people out there who thought, well, certainly Martyn Lawrence Bullard was able to get things, even though my designer couldn't. It's not necessarily about pull. It's just, if you can't get it, you can't get it. If it takes 2 years to clear customs, it takes 2 years to clear customs.
Yeah. There was no pulling, the strings. Even if it was, it was a dining table for share, they couldn't give a damn. It's still sitting in, Indonesia being lacquered 9 months later.
How did that change you as a designer? What effect did that have? And I imagine too, I'm kind of like leaning back and thinking, with your show business background, with that whole Tony Duquette idea of, glue gunning, let's figure out, if we can't have this, let's figure out how to make what's close or what will last until we get what we want.
Yeah, one of the things that we did during the pandemic and are still doing now is we sourced local. So rather than ordering all those things from Italy and, sort of fabulous French-like fixtures and stuff that were taking months and months to make and get delivered, we totally just changed the way we did it and started to use local vendors to create things that maybe are not the same but similar, or even a brand new design we would introduce. I went back to several people with their signed off design and said, look, I can't get this, but how about this? How about we change this look? And people went for it. So a lot of it's become American-made product. A lot of things are Los Angeles-made product that we can get our hands on fast. And we can oversee the vendors and the artisans making it. And that's really become part of our everyday life now. It's very much, we are making things rather than ordering things, because we can control it, we can get it faster, and we can, guarantee the quality.
Are you able to find that same level of craftsmanship that was that a problem? Like in certain areas, it's funny. So during the pandemic, we moved to Tulsa, where we're working on a design house. And for those who have never been to Tulsa, some of the architecture there from the 1920s, the Art Deco is just extraordinary.
Wow!
And I was being given a tour, and they explained to me, the docent was explaining, like they had to go and train people to paint so that they could get it back to what it was supposed to look like. They had to train people to weld in a certain style and tile in a certain style, and they had to. Can you find, are the trades coming back? There was a time where if you wanted something, you had to go outside of Los Angeles.
LA is a very special place because we have many extraordinary artisans here. There's a big Latin community. There's a lot of Mexican community that are all artisans. and some of them are still artisans that have learned it from their grandfather and their father, and it's been passed down, which is kind of, we've lost it in so many other communities, but there's still a real strength and pride. And so these wonderful artisans have been producing beautiful things. And they're here in LA. It's wild. I mean, you have to look for it a little bit, but we do have incredible artists. I've got friends from New York and Chicago and Palm Beach in Florida that are all asking me to help them find the artisans to make the stuff coming out of LA, because they know the quality's good, because they know these people have real backgrounds. And it's a little bit like in France and Italy, where it's generational. And they're training, father-son situations. So we do have that here. It is amazing. Now, maybe not everything. Maybe we don't have extraordinary Chinese lacquerists or some of the amazing skills that you find in the fine couture furniture houses that are based in and around Paris. But we've got good enough, and sometimes far better than good enough. Sometimes superior work here. We're very lucky.
Did you draw on that? So last time you and I spoke, and I don't remember the timeline, but I want to say that you had said something about wanting to do another hotel, but you would love, if you could do anything, it would be local and, like to West Hollywood, and then since then, Prospect.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did the Prospect Hotel in Hollywood.
You're a manifester. You decided,
and the Four Seasons residences here too as well, which not really a hotel, but it's a residential project. But that was really fun as well. The Prospect was amazing. Yes, that came out of the blue. It's an incredible building off of Hollywood Boulevard, called the Prospect because Hollywood Boulevard used to be called Prospect Way, and the hotel used to be an apartment building where many of the sort of silent and then early 20th century movie stars lived. And so people like Greta Garbo lived there, and some amazing actors from the 20s and 30s. So the hotel, I gave the hotel a design nod that referenced those people that had been there. So for Greta Garbo, there's a Mata Hari suite, which was one of her most famous movies, that's decorated in this kind of chinoiserie on acid sort of vibe. But it's great fun. It's a little hotel, but people love it, which is so fun. I did all the rooms in different themes and different vibes. And I even went there and had a staycation. It was great.
Did you?
Yes.
When you do a hotel, do you sort of draw back to that set decorator mentality? Because one of the things I love, and I think we talked about this, is the idea of set decorators. Like, it's a special thing. They're not designing for a person; they're designing for a page, which means that in your mind you're crafting the client. The writer, they didn't craft the people; they crafted the story. The director, the actors, they're looking to you, if you're a set decorator, to define what that space looks like. When you do a hotel, hospitality is that you're trying to create a certain experience. It's almost like you're creating a show around the people that you expect would go and enjoy your work.
Yeah, except, a hotel is a stage that the guests need to be the stars of. So you have to create a backdrop that people find fantastical, that they find amusing, that they find sexy, but they also find themselves starring in it. And that is why creating a hotel is like producing a movie. It really is.
And you have the experience as a producer. I imagine is it that laborious?
Everything can be laborious at times, but it's really much more fun. I mean, I love doing hotels because you do get to create this sort of fantasy. Like in the Prospect, the Mata Hari suite, I had so much fun thinking about, that movie where Greta Garbo, who was this sort of exotic beauty, was creating this character of a spy, this gorgeous sort of wild-looking spy, and where would she have slept, and what was this room? This sort of chinoiserie experience of the whole Mata Hari outfits these great Adrian design outfits that she wore in the movie. So we did research for all of these rooms and created all these elements in my own sort of mad vision of them. And so, yes, it is a real production, but it was great fun. It was great fun to do it.
When you design, do you ever put in any Easter eggs? Do you put in any things in the work that are not really intended for anyone else, but just so that you know it's
Easter eggs?
Yeah.
I've put a Fabergé egg in one of my projects. I'm not sure about Easter eggs.
Do you ever hide anything in the design just that you know it's there?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, that's the fun thing that you can do. I have a lot of clients that I've done 3 or 4 different projects for along the way. Long-term clients and people that you get to really know. And so when you do that, you want to do something that's special and unexpected for them in each new project. So there's always another exciting element in it. Lately, we've taken to doing embroidering sayings or their favorite poems or some sort of wonderful love token that they've shared between themselves and their partner into upholstery, like hidden on the back of a pillow, or sometimes I have things engraved on the cutlery that we deliver. Just these little moments that make things very, very personal, and they don't really expect to see it. And it's something, it doesn't really cost anything to do it. It's just sort of mentally you have to get yourself into the vibe to find out what you think is going to be the right thing. But yes, those are very fun little moments that you can do. It's hard with a first-time client because you don't necessarily know everything about them. But once you get to know people, you really want to come up with something that's a special surprise for them.
Post-pandemic, where was the first place you went?
Well, I was actually going places during pandemic because even though my offices were closed and everybody was working from home, I was lucky enough to have clients that had helicopters and private planes and things. And so they were picking me up and I was going to job site meetings, like wrapped in plastic head to toe kind of a thing. But so I was bobbing around a little bit. But first big visit was Paris, actually. Because I had several product launches and I had to go and check on stuff. And so really Paris was the first big trip. I did fly to London twice during COVID for a couple of different reasons. Honestly, I miss Europe so much because of the inspiration it always gives me. And I need that injection. And for almost 2 years not to be in Europe was crazy because I'm usually in Europe 8 times a year. So, yeah, I missed that.
So when you went back after 2 years, did it change?
Yeah, well, definitely.
For you, what?
Definitely. The scariest part of the change was that shops that you've loved and used for years were gone. And vendors, because I love to go shop all those flea markets and things. And there were people that had either retired, there were some people that died of COVID, which was horrendous to find out. Yeah, it was quite shocking. Even sort of going to New York was quite decimated. There are a bunch of the dealers and the vintage stores and things are just gone. They haven't reopened. So yeah, the landscape is different. It really is.
And how do you cope with those changes? How do you professionally? We all get into certain routines and rhythms and things that we do. And then when something is dramatic in how it changes everything, it kind of reorganizes the way we think about what it is that we're doing. We have to rethink about the business. We have to rethink how we want to do what we do. How did it change the way you think about what you do and how you do it?
It made us, actually is interesting because change does make you have to go out and work a little harder. Because I'm so used to using my old favorites. And remember, I started out my career in the flea markets in London at 12. And I had people that I'd still been working with for 40 years actually, that I'd known for all those years. that are now gone. And so you have to work a little harder to find replacements, to build those new relationships and to build the trust. Because a lot of what we do, particularly when you're buying vintage and you're buying it maybe from photographs, is about trusting the person that's selling it to you to make sure you're getting something that's good that your clients are going to enjoy. So there's been a real change in that, and we've had to definitely discover new people and work a little harder and make our network bigger, make our net bigger, really.
Let's talk about partnerships for a minute, collaborations. You do a masterful job, just absolutely extraordinary with regard to your collaborations and partnerships. And some of the things that you do is, I find that all of the collaborations that you do, they are all in line with your brand. They are all on point. The partners you work with are all on point. They're cohesive and consistent with who your brand is. What is that process like for you? How do you vet potential partners? How do you work with new partners on the lines that you want to collect, and what or the collections that you want to be a part of? And what is that process like for you and your studio?
You know, my whole life, I have 17 licenses currently, and my whole licensing ethos was really about, when it first started, when it first kicked off, when I sort of became well known and people wanted to partner in with me, I decided I wanted to start at the very top, because if you start at the top, it's easy to come down and start to create your pyramid effect. But if you start at the bottom, it's very hard to get up. So I started with those sort of iconic companies like doing silver for Christoffel and doing porcelain for Haven Limoges and crystal for Dome, and legendary companies. And amazing things happen. Like now my name sits on lists next to Jean Cocteau and Picasso. I mean, it's insane. I can't even believe it. It's ridiculous. I shouldn't be there, but that has happened. And so it's an amazing thing. And then I thought, I need to start to allow the design community a little bit more interest. And so that's when I started to do things with companies like Schumacher, my own fabric line, Cole & Son with wallpaper, Perennials with outdoor fabric. So lots of things I created that were really for the design industry, which has been amazing because you get to see what other designers do with your designs, making them their own. It's super inspirational. And now I've really started to do things that are more open to the public. So I have a line with a shade store, I have a line with Du Chateau of wood flooring, my Ansacs tile lines. All these things are more available to the general public, and that's also been incredible. But I make sure that all the companies I work with are top of the line. At whatever price point they're in, they're top of the line. They're top-notch quality, they're tried and trusted, they're proven. Because I don't want to put my name out there on something that ends up being horrible quality or people order it and it falls apart. So you want to make sure that your name is aligned with something great. And if you've got the quality there and you give them good design, you're going to end up with great things.
Something that you said sort of as you led into that was, there you are, your name is being associated with Picasso, and you don't feel like it should be. I have often felt that design is akin to the arts. I feel like design is very similar to jazz. I feel like design can be very similar to the fine arts. But designers have never really gotten that kind of credit associated with the work that they do, and I think that maybe it's because the majority of the work is residential, and some of the really spectacular stuff people never really see.
Yes.
But when did you know that you had made it? When did you feel like, I'm not faking this till I make it? I've made it. I have arrived, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm comfortable. And whether other people believe that or not, when did you know that you made it?
I think my first ever real design job was with Cheryl Teagues, with the iconic supermodel, and I didn't know what I was doing back then. It was an unbelievable job that I fell into, and it was a Balinese sort of villa in the hills of Bel Air. And at which point neither Cheryl nor I had been to Bali, so it was a complete fantasy that we created. But, you know, when that job was finished, within 9 months, we were on 6 magazine covers around the world. And that was an unbelievable thing to happen for like a brand new designer in their like mid-20s, for that to suddenly happen. And that's when I thought, my God, people like what I do. It's just incredible. But, you know, it takes a little while for you still to get the confidence moving forward. And, you know, for a minute there I thought, oh my God, am I a one-trick wonder? Was this like a fluke? But within probably 2 years of that, you know, I suddenly immediately from her got all of these other extraordinary jobs that happened. And once the press starts to happen around it, then you realize that, you know what, this really is a career. So I think that I've been so very lucky that I've had clients that have always allowed me to publish things, and that I've had all these amazing editors that have been incredibly loyal and published things for me constantly. People like the wonderful Margaret Russell, who was with Elle Decor and then Architectural Digest, and throughout her career and throughout my career, which this September is my 30-year anniversary of being a designer, she published me at least once every year of that career span of herself in those magazines. And the same with many of the other editors. And today, you know, I have wonderful relationships with everybody, and Amy Astley from Architectural Digest, who's just an unbelievably wonderful lady, has been so supportive of everything. And in fact, I have a cover coming out next week that's going to be very fun, that you're all going to love, and I'm very proud of. So, yeah, it's been amazing. The acceptance of the press and then all of the acceptance of the public that comes with that is definitely the seal of approval that you know, lets you feel good.
Well, I think what's interesting too, and the longevity of your career, and the fact that, you know, one of the things I love about you and your career and what you do is you don't rest on your laurels. You know, you have not. I don't think, you know, I'm not inside your head, but I get the feeling like
you're very lucky you're not inside my head.
But I get the feeling like you don't get satisfied with the work. The work is each project is it a means to an end, because it's not an end all be all.
Well, first and foremost, I am not like a lot of designers where they have one look. I love so many different things. I don't know if that's about being British and having come from a country where they had a lot of sort of empire at one point, and there was all those influences that came into England, and it's all a bit of a crazy cocktail. But I enjoy doing everything. So at the moment we have things from the most modern projects to the most traditional. I like the challenge. I love doing different things. I never want to be grouped into somebody thinking, oh, he just does Moroccan things, or he just does traditional things, or only does mid-century. I want to be able to do everything, hopefully do it well. And I want to be able to do jobs where we, particularly residential, where you walk into it and you go, my God, I love your house. I don't want them to go in and say, oh, this is another Martyn Lawrence Bullard house. I want people to come in and say, I love your house because it's shining with your personality. And that, to me, is the real success of an interior designer, if you can pull that off. And that's what keeps me going. That's the longevity, I think, of my career, is that I have been able to keep reinventing the looks for my clients to match who they are. And keeping everybody on their toes, and keeping my office on their toes, and keeping us all excited. There's nothing worse than just having a cookie cutter look that you just keep stamping out. I would hate that.
You know, it's interesting too. At the same time, and I go back to the comparison to music. You know, when you have a band that puts out a first record and it's just a smash, right? Well, the second record, you know, the sophomore edition, sometimes they try to get creative and do something different, and it just crashes and burns. And sometimes, to your point, there is this typecasting of certain design talent, certain designers, and it works for them. They get a look and then they just wash and repeat, right? But there's also sometimes a fear of like, what if I change this or I change that, will it shock those who like the work that I do? Do you ever think about that?
Then you're not a good designer. A good designer believes in themselves in everything that they do. You know what I mean? I think that if you think that you're only good at one look and that's all people are going to follow you for, then you're killing your own creativity. Because a creative should be a chameleon and can grow their butterfly wings and fly in every direction.
There's also a lot of bravery that has to take part, because listen, with the advent of social media, anyone with a computer can say ugly things and it never comes back to them, right? The amount of criticism. I feel like prior.
Never read your comments.
Really? You don't read? You don't.
Actually, I do look at comments on Instagram because 99% of that is wonderful, and my followers are just divine, and I love and enjoy it. But when I first went on television, people said to me, "Don't read the fan mail. Don't read the and I get it, because sometimes people can be really wicked.
Yeah.
But who cares? I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me and for everybody else that enjoys it. So you're right. Bravery, believing in yourself, passion, and, just unashamed bravado, I guess, is really the path that I travel anyway.
What's next?
Wow, what is next? Well, I could list off the next round of jobs, but they're really fun, but that's not necessarily what's really next for me. What's really next for me is, as we get older, you have different goals and different things that you want to do, and I also very much feel like design is something where we can give back to the world a little bit too, because design makes a lot of people feel good. It changes the way that their day starts or ends. And so I do want to start helping people in other ways using design and using the talents and the things that I have learned to help people that are less fortunate than I am. I mean, I think that's really a wonderful thing, to find ways to give back. And we've been sort of trying that along the way, and I hope to do a bit more of that, which is a good thing. But also, on a less heavy note, I want to do more things in more unusual places. I'm talking to somebody about designing an island in Fiji right now. So there's things like that which I find to be wildly exciting, because they're very difficult. It's very difficult to design on an island in the middle of nowhere that takes hours to fly to, that you can't, just have a sofa from SOHO Home shipped there next week. So I like those challenges. I think that stuff's really fun and really interesting. And we've got a bit more of that happening these days now we're out of the pandemic scenario, so that's good fun.
Yeah, and it feels too like there are opportunities now that may not have really existed in the past. I had done an interview once with a jazz musician who had passed away recently named Wayne Shorter, and he was telling me a story about a conversation he had with Miles Davis, and because he played with him, and Miles said to him, "Do you ever want to play music that doesn't sound like music?" And I thought, wow, that's just an interesting thought coming from someone who is so highly accomplished. And I was trying to figure out what that means. And then it kind of dawned on me, like that's how a creative that has hit their stride, that's how they continue to maintain that stride, is by doing things that are counter to what they've always done, and to try to think differently about what it is that they do, their art, their craft, their business. And part of that is always learning more about what you do, and it's being able to continue to travel and continue to get the inspiration and continue to do what you do in different ways. And which is why I'm curious, A, what's next, and B, is there a project or a type of project that you have always wanted to do, and maybe you haven't done it just because you've been too busy?
Yes, but thinking out of the box is a very important thing. And my number one rule is that the day that we stop learning from one another and our surroundings and what we're doing is the day you die. And so people that close themselves off from learning new things is suicide. So I always say to everybody that's around me, to any young students, to everybody, keep your eyes and ears open every second, because you never know what's going to inspire you next. Whether it's a bowl of oranges or a cathedral in Rome or a bunch of tar in the road, there's something in everything that could inspire you. That black tar in the road could be that beautiful, perfect blue-black that you decide you want to stain a table in. So we never know, you know what I mean? What would I really love? I love historic buildings. I love historic restoration. I really enjoy getting stuck in on those projects. They're very rare. They don't usually happen here in America because we don't have that many historic buildings. And so I've been lucky enough to restore a 12th century castle in Italy, and I recently finished an 18th century estate in Ireland, where we scoured literally the world and all the auction houses to bring back 18th century Irish things to Ireland. And so it was an amazing project, a beautiful learning curve in every way, from sitting there drinking whiskey with the Irish to you know, learning how to navigate these crazy auction houses all over the world, in Romania and mad places. But it's so I love doing more of those things. And one of my very, very first jobs, way back 30 years ago, was also, I got pulled in when they were restoring the Pantages Theatre, which was an amazing thing to do. And I worked a little bit on that restoration, and it was fabulous fun. And so going back to the whole theatrical element, you know, there are all these incredible old movie theatres and movie houses that they're being slightly reworked these days into new private clubs and all sorts of things. So that would be really fun to do something like that, to get stuck into one of those great, like 20s, like the Egyptian in downtown LA, these great old movie theatres, and get in on the restoration and how to rebirth those amazing sort of Behemoth monsters that people don't really know what to do with anymore. But that would be so fun to do something like that.
I love that we have actually just come full circle. and you're manifesting again on this one, and my hope is that you and I can connect again, hopefully sooner than 3 or 4 years, and some of that actually comes to pass, because I would love that. I wish nothing but the best for you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much. So lovely to see you. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of the Convo by Design Icon Registry, a celebration and recognition of true masters in the art and sciences of design and architecture. It's amazing. I love doing this, to celebrate these professionals in all that encompasses that pursuit of making better the lives of those they serve and giving back along the way. Thank you, Martyn, and congratulations. Some of the things I truly enjoyed were the review of your 2019 Legends window and your experience in theater, which speaks to your world-class storytelling skills. Thanks to listeners of Convo by Design. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you to my partner sponsors, Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, for presenting the Convo by Design Icon Registry. And Convo by Design partner sponsors TimberTech, Design Hardware, Loam, AI. And again, thank you for taking the time to listen. I couldn't do this without you. Wouldn't want to. I hope this show helps you stay motivated, inspired. And until next time, be well, stay focused, and rise above the chaos.